Hello, I'm Julia Fisher. Welcome to the Olive Tree and the stories of what God is doing in Israel today amongst believers who live there, both Jewish and Arab people. My guest today is Eli Birnbaum, director of the work of the mission organisation Jews for Jesus. Their aim is to make the person of Jesus known to as many people as possible, and they are creative in how they go about it. Eli heads a team of over 50 missionaries, and here he shares about their latest venture, Jerusalem.
In 2018, we did one of our last outreaches, one of our gospel campaigns was in Jerusalem, and we really had in our heart this goal, and I think in our heart was the words of Jesus where he said, oh Jerusalem, how I long to gather you, like a hen that gathers its chicks, and that longing that Jerusalem would once again say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Our goal was to create a permanent presence in Jerusalem. And really, we started asking staff, mainly from Israel, would you be willing to serve in Jerusalem and to transfer your life, to commit to the city? And that's what our team has done. And they've taken up that call. They said, yes, I want to serve in Jerusalem. I want to minister to the city. And really what we've been focusing on during this time is reaching out to the more secular crowd in Jerusalem that have been very open to hear and to listen to our faith. And also amongst the Russian speaker, which is a very large Russian speaking population in Jerusalem, and especially from the elderly, that we've been able to minister to them during this time. One of the things we do is help them learn Hebrew and bring them packages and different things like that. So that's kind of what we started to do. We just right now opened our office there, and we're really excited to see what God has in hand.
You've also got a lot of Orthodox Jewish people in Jerusalem and a lot of Muslims. So how does that pan out?
Well, I think with the religious population, you always see that there's people on the outskirts who are interested and they'll order a New Testament and they'll want to know more. And that's what we'll be doing as a staff in Jerusalem. We will take the time to be with them and to minister to them. At this time, we don't feel like it is the time to have a specific outreach to the religious people in Jerusalem, mainly because we're really praying that God will bring the right people with the heart and the experience to be able to minister to such a community, because it's such a complex outreach. Because on one hand, you need to be authentically part of it. On the other hand, you can't, because your faith keeps you from that. You know, one of the things we've taken over the last few years is every community we try to reach out to, we do the best effort we can to authentically be a part of it. And we are really praying that God will send those people who feel called to be authentically part of the Jewish community and serve them in the ways that, of course, that we can. And right now we don't have that, but we're definitely praying for God to bring that about.
Very encouraging. Moving back to Tel Aviv, I've been reading that you have started to work amongst the women who are prostitutes and drug addicts in the city. There's a lot of need and poverty. A word about that team.
Yeah, so this is our second newest team, or maybe kind of they started at the same time as Jerusalem. But Tel Aviv, as all major cities, it's also where there's those in the most need, those who have lost their homes, been taking on an addiction to drugs and different things. And in the last few years, one of our staff who used to be on our children, youth, and young adult team really had this vision, along with another guy who came off the streets himself. And they've really had this vision to start ministering to those on the street. And what we would do for a long time is we would participate with some other facilities that are giving out food. They'd have like a soup kitchen, and a really interesting thing happened in COVID. Those places had to close because of the restrictions. And so we began saying, okay, but the people on the street are still on the street. They're not going anywhere. They still need food. They need ministry, and we want to continue serving to them. And so our staff started taking their private cars and driving around handing out sandwiches. And it was that spring where we were just sitting together and praying, does this strategy work? I was with the team and we were praying, we were thinking about it, and we're saying, hey, what if we had a food truck that gave out food? And so that's how we started our Tel Aviv food truck that gives food to the homeless. And with the help of donors from around the world, we raised money. We bought this truck. We painted it a turquoise green. And every 3 days a week, it's out there giving out food, providing water. But more importantly, it's providing an opportunity to help those in need to hear from the message of Jesus that will give them living waters. And so that happened during COVID. And then on top of that, we've said, okay, there's lots of ministries that are helping men get off the streets. There's just nothing really for women that we know, especially women that are Hebrew speakers. And that's when we decided to start a house. We're just painting and finishing up, putting the lighting fixtures up right now. We have a brand new staff. We have 6 people who have come on staff to help this happen because there's going to be someone there 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully in the beginning of October, we'll be able to receive our first women who have come off the streets, who have gone to rehab and now are looking to restart their lives. And we have a house, a beautiful place, an oasis for them to do that. We'll receive the help, the counsel, but also ministry to really hear about Jesus and how he can help them through any difficulty. So that's very, very exciting. I'm very proud of this team who put this all together. And it's really, I'm looking forward to seeing what God will do through that.
I mean, I can understand why there are a lot of places for men, rehabs for men, but for women with children and grandchildren, it's another story. It's a much bigger challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a much bigger challenge. And the need really is, you need to be there a lot more. The emotional support often and the difficulties of it. We decided to go an area, and when we took on this ministry, our goal was to be, let's do what no one else is doing. And that's what we're doing.
One of the things I love about the way you build your teams, Eli, is that you don't always just have Jewish believers on your teams. You also have Israeli Arabs too, don't you?
We have had in the past Israeli Arabs on our teams, and we're definitely love to see them, especially when they want to reach and share the gospel. Actually, on our trip right now, we're doing a Massa trip, which is an Israeli backpacker outreach to. Usually, sometimes we go to India, but this year we're going to Peru because of the restrictions. And on that team is a young Israeli Arab who loves the Lord, and he's taken on this trip because he wants to share the gospel with the Jewish people.
Can you just explain what this team do, Massa? You're actually traveling, aren't you, post-army?
Right. So Israelis, when they finish their military service, they like to take a gap year before they start life, before they start uni. And they take that a year to travel, go around the world and to see places that they've never been to. And Peru, South America is one of those destinations. India is one of those destinations. Fortunately or unfortunately, England is not one of those destinations, but they really like to go to an exotic place that's cheap. And I don't think England is very cheap. So that's where they go. And so what we've done throughout the years, actually, this is one of the projects that I started as I joined the ministry, is the reality was Israeli Jewish believers or believers in Israel weren't doing that trip. They weren't traveling. And for me, I think that as believers, we need to be in as many parts of society as we can. We also wanted to help people, Israelis, be bold about their faith, to share for the next generation, to not hide their faith. And so that's how this project started. And what they do is that we have 10 days of training in Tel Aviv, where they go out and share the gospel on the streets of Tel Aviv. They learn the gospels, they learn apologetics, they'll do some discipleship material. And then they travel to these locations, and alongside, they're experiencing the same thing as their counterparts are experiencing, but they're able to bring in the message of the gospel and share with people around the world. And every year we get to share with anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 people on every one of those trips.
Amazing. Eli, the question we always ask, the question behind every program that we do on the Olive Tree is, so what is God doing? Now, if I was to put that question to you, what do you see God is doing in Israel, in your sphere of influence? And what are you expecting to see in the weeks and months ahead?
Well, I think what God really is doing, what I feel like he's been doing the last year and a half, is really been preparing us for a new move of what he wants to do. When the pandemic hit, I remember when lockdown was about to happen, the big question is, what do we do now? Like, how do we keep on ministering? And what it really caused us to do is to rethink everything that we do. Is there a better way to do it? Is there more that we can do? It was just this passion. We are not going to let it stop the gospel from going out. that really transformed our team into really looking for more and more opportunities. And I really think that the next few months, God is really going to be preparing an infrastructure for growth, for more and more ministry, more and more people to hear the gospel. I'm so encouraged to see so many more New Testament orders that are coming in, people that are seeking. And as we're recreating our website and making this infrastructure, I'm really expecting to see even more of that. And we have this ministry for women. I'm really expecting to see that God will bring those women in and they'll commit their life to Jesus and start a new life that will be beautiful, that only God can heal. We look at our team in Jerusalem. It's a place where everyone says, oh, you can't share the gospel there. We've been there. We went there. We shared the gospel. People came to faith, and we're going to continue doing that through this work. So I'm really encouraged by that, by what God is doing through all of these ministries. You remember we were talking about the Massa trip?
Yeah.
So this year we have the most participants we've ever had. We have 16 young Israelis who are going to share the gospel. And the most we ever had was 12. So I'm encouraged by that because it just sees, and we had to say no to people, we had to say, no, you can't come. Usually we have to convince people to do evangelism. And this year we had to say, nope, there's no room for you. Wow. So that's encouraging for me because I've been trying to I've been getting people to share the gospel, young people to share the gospel. As like myself, there's this subtle understanding. And now I see really that people want to do it. They want to learn more. There's programs around Israel, a pre-army program, discipleship program, and they're all asking me, can you come and teach us about evangelism? And so that's encouraging for me to see that God is really preparing us to continue to share the gospel in a bold way in Israel. I don't know what the results are, but our job is to just be faithful with what God gives us, and He's got to bring those people, the people that He's calling to Him, because I can't do that.
You've been listening to Eli Birnbaum, Director of Jews for Jesus in Israel. The Olive Tree Reconciliation Fund is a Christian charity based in the UK that supports the needs of both Jewish believers and Arab or Palestinian Christians living in Israel and the wider Middle East. If you'd like to know more about our work and receive our free bi-monthly newsletter, please visit our website, olivetreefund.org. Meanwhile, join me at the same time next week for another story from the Olive Tree. Until then, goodbye.